T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, here we go, guys. Week 2. Looking forward to this one. We're going short tails. We're going blood pythons. We're going to mix some other stuff in there too.
Trap Talk Reptile Network is brought to you in part by Juggernaut Reptiles. Shout out to Tiffany and Elijah Armas. This couple has been doing big things in the reptile world for over a decade now. We're talking blood pythons, short-tail pythons, anacondas, the best. Okay, if you're looking to get your hands on different species in the reptile game, make sure you go give Juggernaut Reptiles a follow on Instagram. Please go subscribe to their YouTube channel. And again, some of the best reptiles you can get your hands on from these two, and they've been doing it for a while. So thank you to Elijah and Tiffany Armas from Juggernaut Reptiles, today's sponsor.
Elijah and Matt, both my guests today, Juggernaut and Philly Herpetoculture. Let's just get rolling into it. So I was going to ask, you guys are from the Northeast. You guys been crossing paths for years? I mean, have you guys had some talk before this, or are you guys getting fresh to know each other?
We've known each other for a while now.
Yeah, we know each other pretty well for not like hanging out personally, just reptile stuff and seeing each other at shows, being close.
Okay, tight. What year did both of you guys start buying in the Northeast?
Me, I've been in since 2003.
Okay.
Like getting in big. I mean, back in the day, I was a kid, but took a break from, like basically 13 to 18, and then I was back in. So since 2003.
How about you?
2012.
2012. All right. So what's the Northeast, or what is it like in the Northeast for the bloods and the short tails? Because I find sometimes like back in the day you had a guy like Pete Call in the Northeast, so everybody had albino boas or something he worked with. Is there a good following in the Northeast for blood and short tail guys, or you guys are rarity?
You want to go?
I'll let you go.
Oh, no, I feel like there's a really good presence here for blood and short tails. Basically, Keith McPeak's one of the biggest and has been around forever. He's a North Jersey guy. I got a lot of stuff, and he worked directly with Keith McPeak from Mike Kostakos. He's a New York guy. He's always had Borneo short tails and blood pythons. And, after about 2005, you could regularly see them at shows, and more breeders started popping up. There was a solid amount of like Florida breeders, a couple Atlanta breeders, and I feel like the East Coast is, well, at least for the West Coast, I feel like East Coast probably has the most, more than the West Coast, and then sprinkled around there. At least that's my opinion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about the same for me.
About the same. Are there a lot of guys down in Texas considering, you got Tracy down there bringing all those new projects in for the last 20 plus years?
There was definitely some Texas people. Still is, I'm sure. But I don't know. I feel like the presence on the East Coast for reptiles, like Python boa wise, is pretty strong for well-known breeders and people really dialing in projects, whether it's bloods or boas or chondros. I mean, Maryland was like chondro city pretty much, and everything like that. So I feel like the East Coast has a strong presence of like focused out in breeders. I can't really speak. Besides going to Tinley, I and speaking to people online, I can't speak much for the Midwest. And like I said, the West Coast, I just don't know much about the West Coast. It's obviously more now I know about breeders out there, but it just seems it's a little more wild, or we don't know each other as well.
Okay. So we're going to figure out how the flow is going to work on this, because it's always weird with 3 people, because it sucks asking both you guys the same question. So I think we're just going to move into random conversations. How about this? You guys have both been set up at Tinley. Of course, Elijah, I'm going to start with you on this one. How's that atmosphere for you, and what's the market like there for a blood python guy?
Probably the best market there is, best expo for them.
Okay. And short tails for you, Matt? I mean, you do well at Tinley?
I did well. Last time I did Tinley was right before the pandemic hit, so I was doing the October one, and yeah, the last two I did, I had the best shows I've ever had out of anywhere. Which I only do local Hamburg shows. I've done Daytona once. I didn't do well there. I did some of them, a couple of them Myrtle Beach shows, but yeah, Tinley was a real strong show for me.
Okay. So like, I don't like this part of the hobby, but I always joke around when ball python people make a little less money, they panic and they jump into other species. Do you guys ever notice when ball python people are complaining, you're getting some ball python money rolling in with you guys?
You should take that one, Elijah, more than me.
When they're complaining,
Well, when the market feels low for ball python guys, do you ever feel like they're looking for somewhere new to put their money? And do you ever notice that they come into blood pythons?
I think I've probably had that happen maybe on several occasions, but nothing, I don't think too crazy. For the most part though, is I noticed a lot of them have jumped, even when the market was good, they would try to jump into the bloods and short tails, especially since I started and I still have a big collection of ball pythons.
Okay, tight. And Matt, with the short tail stuff, I mean, do you feel like you get drive from other communities to come over with the lack of mutations? Because I know you guys are playing with a little bit of stuff, of course.
Well, I have blood pythons too. I'm more or less focused on the red stripe stuff, but I got mutations. And yeah, definitely. Even Borneos, there were people that, as stuff dried up a little bit or they felt low, they would try to jump into that, but they were more interested in the blood pythons with the mutations. And I can't remember what year I went to Daytona. I just flew in by myself and hung out with like Dennis McNamara all weekend. And quite a few ball python people, like all ball pythons, but they had like a tier or two bloods at the end that I've never really heard of having bloods. So they were definitely starting to leak into ball python guys. I think because of the size and it's a rack animal. You know what I mean? It kind of goes hand in hand with it.
Mhm.
I personally don't think it's a great idea for like obviously some ball python people do fine, but there's definitely some out there that I think will be caught real off guard if blood python gets a little bit agitated or throw some curveballs at them.
I understand that. That sneeze just distracted the shit out of me. I've lost all train of thought. Well, so I'll be honest, man. I'm going to treat you like a short tail guy a lot in this conversation. I know you got your bloods, but your experience in the market, because you started buying in 2003, you said, and early on, your focus was short tails, right?
It's always been Borneo short tail pythons and blood pythons. My favorite is Borneos, and I've definitely leaned harder that way. But yeah, I do both. I would say just as much, even though I have more more Borneo short tail pythons.
Okay. And Elijah, when you started buying in 2012, what were the markets for bloods like when you were buying in then? Because the blood python market 10 years ago was very different. I think the golden eye was still started up. It was a high dollar animal at that point. Is there a certain project that you find in bloods over this last decade that is, that one project you want to put into everything that, in your opinion, has stayed the most steady with prices?
For me, it's been T-neg albino stuff for the most part. A lot of people back then, they kind of were like T plus, heavy into the T plus stuff like that, lion breeding, as well as getting them to the mutations. So T-neg had a longer start, and it's still kind of like where I'm at the most part.
Okay, tight. And what was the market? What was the T negative in 2012 for your base model when you first started buying them?
2012, right at the very beginning. Yeah. I don't even think at the time when I was going to expos, no one even had T-negs. So I'd have to find them online, and they were probably like in the $2,000 range or so.
Okay, so nothing too crazy, but a fair price. What are they at now? Is that a 350, 450 animal, or they're not under that yet, are they?
They're probably around 400. They could go up a little more depending on how nice the T-neg is.
Okay, it's not a bad price drop over years, man. I mean, that probably give you plenty of room if you've invested at 2,000. What about you, Matt? The marble project is, honestly, the marble and the oscillate are probably the two I pay the most attention to because, I watch your work most than others. How's the ocelot been treating you, and how's the marble project been treating you? Has the marbles gone up in price over the last decade?
Well, the marbles have been around since, like I said, since Keith McPeak worked with them late 90s, early 2000s. And what I did was I just kept back the best stuff always, added a couple new things that I seen that were good. And in, I should get the exact date. I think 2015 was the first time I hatched what I call the extreme marble. So it's just from marble genetics. It's just line bred taken to a next level. And because of that, the price went up some. Yeah, it definitely went up. Because I mean, when I got in, marbles were about 600, 700 bucks. They leveled off between 250 and like basically 450 because they have different levels to them. And for a long time, for a steady period, I was selling them for 350 to 400. And then once the extreme marble came out, I was selling like lower expression extreme marbles, if that makes any sense to you, for like $2,000. And then anything high expression, I was willing to let go for like $4,000, 4,500. And it's kind of came down a little bit, but not much. Like I would sell a high expression one for 3,500, 4,000, and the low expressions are 12 to 1,800, and a little bit lower, $1,800. That type
Okay.
of range. And
Do
then
high
oscillates are well too. I mean, started out about the same price range, and now they're kind of leveled off between 500 to $1,000.
Okay. Can you put two low expression marbles together and make a high expression?
I think if it comes from me, yes. If it came out of the extreme genes, because it's laying in there, yeah. But if you just go buy two random marbles from a show, even if they're great and they have no connection to my bloodline, or we're taking a different way from my bloodline, it's going to take you a while to get there. Because it took me, I don't know, 11, 12 years, something like that, to come up with that. Because marbles were the first thing I was breeding, and I just continued every year to do it.
Okay.
And I didn't know that was going to happen, obviously. I was trying to take it somewhere. I didn't know it would go to that level.
Okay. Well, and I might blank out every once in a while, guys. I always come back if you see me disappear
It's
on my
cool.
end.
We'll talk amongst ourselves. We did that.
You guys are just fine. I'm just going to ease right back in again. What I was saying was, what do you think the underlining trait is in your marbles that your lineage of animals can still make a high expression, a low expression? Like, how do you think that gene's working? Is it more than just something line bred?
No, I don't know, man. I mean, Borneo genetics are all over the map, besides, I would say, the T-positive albinos right now. Even marbles and granites back in the day, people thought one line was recessive and one was dominant. But it just seems that they level out, like there's high levels and low levels. And when the extreme popped up, yeah, for the first couple of years, I wasn't sure if it would repeat itself or how it will repeat itself. But so far, I've sold it to a couple people. They've been successful. Some people that already had the genes, like Mike Estacos, that's who I bought my original stock from. So he kind of was, putting the marbles on the back burner, and then he started producing them again and took them down the line a little bit. And then he started hitting some extreme marble stuff. Yeah, I don't know why. Like I said, with Borneo shorttails, it's so variable. Like if you're breeding for super stripes and you take a genetic stripe animal and a super stripe animal, you mostly get all stripes. But once in a while, a couple normals pop out or something normal-ish. You can't tell how high the super stripes are going to be or how high the genetic stripes are going to be. That's what makes them a hard sell to some people. But if you're looking to have fun, I mean, you could literally hit the clutch of the year, you having two Borneo shorttails and breeding them two, and me having 70 of them. You could blow everybody away with your two, just because they just seem to throw you curveballs, but in a good way generally.
Okay, cool. All right. So let me know if I'm pronouncing the name right. It's the Druid project, not Android, right? It's Druid.
Yeah.
I don't know why I put Android in my head after talking about it, and once I convince myself of something, I can be retarded for a little while. I know we talked about this a little bit last time, but you've had a few clutches for those this year, so I'm sure you're learning new things as you go in that project. What kind of stuff do you have that's exciting this year with that project? Because I don't know, have you gone to market with those yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, last summer.
All right, tight. So what are your highlights on that project this year?
This year, yeah. What did I produce this year? I didn't go too heavy with it this year. Trying to figure out what I did. That's something new. Mm, I produced, I just hatched out a T plus Phantom, which is a Druid Goldeneye. So that's probably one of them. I can't really figure out. I think I only did maybe 2 clutches this season. I did a lot. I can't try to figure it out what I hit. I had more Phantoms, Nemesis, which is the Druid Goldeneye Petites. But yeah, nothing too crazy new. I'm trying to think of. This season.
How is the Lucistic project going? Because we talked about that. Now that it's got pigment kind of coming through, like an underlining pattern. How's that animal looking today? You getting a lot more pattern in there and lay it up?
I could pull it out. It's crazy looking, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, man. I want to take a look at that if you're willing to pull it out really quick.
I have 3 of them. So one of them's like a really low pattern animal. And then I have one in between, and then I have the really high pattern animal. They're all like in kind of pink mode right now when they're going into shed.
Yeah.
So you'll still get a good idea of their pattern that's coming through.
Okay. Matt, we can talk amongst ourselves. How about you? You got any highlights on your year so far hatching?
No, I actually like kind of I'm going backwards. It's been a long time since I could just hatch like regular. Hold on, let's see this.
Yeah,
in the camera for you.
Yeah, so, I like that. I like that better than an all white snake.
There we go. So this is the most reduced pattern of them. He's currently in shed. So he's all pink.
It still looks. It looks coming up white on the screen to me.
Yeah,
nah, it's pink right now.
Huh.
You can see the belly is pink.
Yeah, the belly looks pink, but the body looks pretty white.
Pink tongue. But this one has the least amount of pattern. This one's also the whitest when it does shed. And then I'm gonna show the male that's more extreme looking than this one.
Okay. So Matt, you're taking it backwards and then you're going forwards again?
No, not backwards really. I used to love making just super stripes and genetic stripes and ocelots. They do that, but obviously you get ocelots. So I was able to plug in some animals that just get super stripes and genetic stripes that are really clean and nice. I did a marble clutch where I got some extreme marbles, but some also normal, really nice marbles. And then I did a crazy project. I'll tell you about that in a second. Oh, that's
wait a minute. There we go.
That's the high pattern one, I assume.
Yep.
See, that's really nice.
Yeah, I think I like that one significantly more, man. Yeah, because I don't want to be awful when I say this, but the other one did have some ivory vibes with that dorsal pattern, but that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, sometimes the gray pattern when they're kind of like, the bloods and the short tails, they kind of have mood changes where they fire up.
Yeah.
So once he sheds and when he's like fired up, that gray kind of almost looks blue.
Oh, that's really cool.
No, I dig that one. I dig that one a lot, actually. I'm glad you started out with the other one first, man, because that's great.
That's why I wanted to give you an idea of them. And then the third one I have is a female, and that one's just kind of in between both of these.
Okay. Wild, man.
That's really neat. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because they just hit a year. So we still have, 2, maybe 3 more years of them going through more changes. So this is just still the beginning.
I love a white snake, but honestly, I think I like this project more now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's been a lot of white snakes done, and I get the appeal of them, but I like with the pattern.
Yeah. No, that's tight. Oh, no, that's cool, man.
That is really cool.
Cool. But last thing you said, you remember?
So the one project I'm doing, I haven't done it yet. So I took a really nice an ocelot ghost actually, which are similar and they go well together, and bred it to an extreme marble because, like I said, Borneo genetics are all over the place. So I was and for some reason, when you breed reduced pattern Borneo stuff to marbles, it takes all the fun stuff out of the marbles. The problem is, me included, we never really go back to that animal or breed them together or breed it to another marble. So we kind of quit on the project all the time, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to hold back a bunch. But all the animals came out basically super striped, genetic striped, and some kind of normal, with some having very low hints of marble, but barely. So it kind of threw my expectations all over the place. I thought I might see like an ocelot or a ghost looking animal, because once again, ocelot and ghost, I wanted to always say like ocelot was recessive, but I had two people swear there was nothing in the other animal. You know, it was a normal or just a stripe animal, or a marble or granite, and they got ocelot on first generation. So that's why it's weird. So I call them basically anything that's not ocelot. I call ocelot, or I call it like a super stripe possible ocelot gene carrier instead of possible head ocelot. Which I kind of want to go back to possible head ocelot because it just confuses people more. But then calling it het makes people think it's recessive, and I'm definitely not sure about that. So it's kind of crazy. Borneos are crazy. That's why Elijah don't got a bunch of Borneos, because he needs to know the genetics more.
Okay. So, and I want to get back to that Lucistic project, but last question on that. So I think last time we did a podcast was probably a little over a year ago. And if I remember right, I asked you when you're going to start putting all that stuff together, when you're going to get some blue ghost into like the marble stuff. I know when we talked then, you weren't really like too keen on crossing things. So is this kind of new for you?
No, it's not crossing because they're all Borneo short tails, but it's
Well,
not new for me. I've done stuff like ocelot into ghost, ocelot into ultra. It just, I was always keeping the marble separate from the ocelots, because I've seen people do blue ghost in the marbles, and it does show up, but just not that great. And like I said, it would just be a continuance thing, and I was working so hard on all the ocelot ghost and extreme marble stuff. But now I've done that so many times, I'm going to continue to do it, but I'm ready to just change it up, see what happens, try to get something new going. And actually, it's funny. One of the things I'm most excited about is a blood project. I had 6 eggs. One's rotten, though. It was Slackline to Slackline, which is a blood python thing, both level 3s. So I'm excited to get some more Slackline bloods.
Okay. I know nothing about that. So if you want to comment on that project, you're more than welcome to, but I don't know anything about it.
Slackline's it's kind of like a stripe line. It's a big, wide stripe, and they pretty much look hypo for the most part. It's a VPI thing. And
Okay.
they have levels. There's a level 1, level 2, level 3, which is kind of like Borneos. Level 1 looks like a normal kind of bandit. Level 2 is stripy, almost like a regular striped blood python. Level 3 gives you like a big wide stripe or like a ladder stripe. And they definitely have like a pinkish hue to them, like a hypo. So it's kind of crazy.
Interesting.
You have any like level 3s, Elijah? I know you got level 2 stuff, or you
I
got
don't
stuff
have
right
no
in.
slack lines over here.
You don't have any slackline stuff?
Nah, same
I'm
thing.
shocked.
Too complicated.
Too complicated. Yeah, see?
You
You know
kind of
what?
get a lot of the same looks with the stripes, the regular stripes. So
Yeah, the ones that I got are pretty wide. I mean, you can get some, but it takes a while. So
nah,
I
yeah.
got the real big, wide, chunky stripes from directly from Tracy. So
Well, Lucistic. So I'm assuming when you started.
those look cool.
Yeah.
I like the pattern one the most.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's the best one.
Yeah. Is that what's the ratio on them? 1.2?
3. Oh yeah, 2.1.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's try this again. So I'm writing down some times when I leave. It'll make MJ happy when he comes back.
A lot
He's
of
gonna hate all these notes. So with the Lucistic project, what I was saying was, so your direction on what you want to do with it probably changed when you started seeing pattern coming through, because it doesn't really make any sense to add something to a Lucistic if you can't see it.
Yeah.
So now that you have pattern showing through, are there any directions like batik in hopes of like some kind of like maybe grandading on the side? Like I'm sure you got something worked out in your head, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm gonna go this coming season. I got a male T+ batik druid. I'm gonna put him back to a female druid het for T+.
Okay. What do you think that color pigment would be like in the albino form? Because typically the dark tones will go like a white. I don't imagine you have more of a bone white with a creamier background, or
Well, I
maybe
produced them in
right.
T+. If you want to see a T+ druid.
I'll take a look at one of those. I'm always game for show and tell, man.
Yeah,
I'll look at it.
they stay much lighter than regular T+ stuff and color wise. So I'll show you the T+ girl I have here. See the T+ druid.
Yeah,
I'm not cool to sit in my 80-degree room, so I would do show and tell too, but I'm not doing that.
that's okay, buddy. Okay.
That looks
That's just a
nice.
regular T plus albino druid.
Okay.
It's got
So
a much lighter look to it, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you see this animal in outside though, it's a lot brighter, and it's got like a real kind of, how would you say, almost like a crystally look to it.
Okay.
Like it really like shines. So that's the T plus druid, and then the T plus batik is a little bit different looking. Get them out with
Yeah, good.
So
But oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
in the leucistic form, though, what do you think in leucistic? What do you think the albinos will do to those grades?
Well, I'm growing out a pair from last year that's het for T-neg albino. So I'm hoping that the T-neg albino takes it away and gives us more of a all white blood python.
Okay, so you want to get some of that project to be true bone white, but it's not a bad thing you got those grays coming through otherwise.
Yeah, so with the batik, with that T plus batik, when I put him back, I'm hoping the batik brings out more pattern in the white. And then with the T-neg, druid's het for T-neg, when I put those together, I'm hoping to produce, an all white blood python with red eyes.
I literally, this is the worst it's ever been for anything I've done. And thank God it's a pre-recording again. I got all these times written down, and thank God he's not here watching, man, because we'd hear his voice in the background.
Yeah.
But no, man, here's the thing, guys, and I'll be straight. I'm not sure he's going to pull this part out, but you guys have a good flow when I walk away. Every time I come back, you're doing you. Just come back. You'll see that dumb look on my face. When I start moving around, it means I can see you again.
Yeah.
You guys can talk all you want. I'm just going to guide us a little bit when I have a chance. And I apologize again.
All good.
Good.
But it sucks. It really does. It's a motherfucker, man.
Is it because where you're at?
I'm country, buddy.
Yeah.
And lightning hit that tree on the property over there, and it knocked out the internet for like a week. And it's so stupid out here. I'm gonna start driving back to that parking lot where I used to do them in the bowling alley. I was gonna go there today. I should have just fucking went up there today because this thing is worthless now. To wrap up the druid project, then. So again, the leucistic, in my opinion, is like a big upside. I love that leucistic. I do like the color tone that you got and just the overall pattern and the T positive. Are you just going to throw it at everything and just see if anything sticks? Like, is there anything you want to keep that gene away from that you don't really think is going to be compatible?
So I'm not too crazy about it in Matrix.
Okay.
It seems like that could be a little bit more of a difficult one to tell them apart sometimes. Just like a regular druid versus like a really high expression, wild looking Matrix. And I did produce a T plus Matrix druid, which wasn't too crazy. It's even lighter in color than those animals. But that's probably the only gene in a way, maybe. But the Matrix, I did hit a regular non-visual T plus, which is just a Matrix druid. That thing has kind of like a gray green coloration coming through that one. So that one's pretty cool looking.
Okay, that's tight. I like that. Is there anything you think you could do with that green?
Yeah, that I'm looking at because I just picked up what is it? A magpie sunder. So the sunder gene is something Nick at Cold-Blooded Earth produced. It's a new gene. It seems to be kind of like it does add some pattern, but it's more of like what would you say, a saturation gene.
Okay.
It really enhances coloration. So I would like to see get that in there and see if I could get that green to really pop.
Okay. You're not in that rod iron project yet, right?
Nah, not yet.
I'm sure that's on your list. I love that gene. I like that
Yeah.
head. All right, let's move it around a little. You guys find, and I want to go back to market talk because I really care about how communities are doing financially. That's just me. You guys find consistency in what you do. Like as a species, you guys get the really bad lows like other people. I'll be honest, I could take a 2-minute drive to my neighbor's house and have Starlink if I got it. Like, should I just run over there and just do it in the parking lot?
10 seconds later.
What's going on, man?
Yep.
You still hatching stuff?
One last clutch.
One last clutch.
Any day now, yeah. My last pod clutch.
What for bloods?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I got that slackline stuff and extreme marble clutch, little one. That's about it.
Okay.
Well, I might have. Well, I got true red tail boas. I got a Suriname grab it. She's definitely grab it. I don't know exactly when she's gonna drop, but that'll be it after that. So.
Yeah, I got a green anaconda graphic, but I'm expecting that by probably next March or next summer for her to drop.
Yeah, I think I got 2 more months to go on this boa. So I've done the short tail boas, the Amarilla. I haven't done true red tails yet, so she'll be pretty cool. And she's remaining pretty big. So from what I talked to from other boa guys, they said that's a good sign. Like she's just staying like big. She doesn't feel flat or loose or anything like that. So
Okay. Now the boas, are they like coiled up tightly? Grab it?
yeah, she is on heat. I didn't notice my South Brazilian Amarilla doing that too often, but this one, yeah, she's just on the heat, almost like she's not turned sideways, almost like she's beehiving eggs, and she like lives on there.
Yeah. That's what the green's doing now. She's just like in a big ass ball, like wrapped tight, but you can see she's swollen looking and everything.
Yeah, she's tight and she'll eat, but like I said, I talked to a couple people and they're like, there's no point in feeding her anymore. So I was giving her little meals, but I didn't know if it was helping or hurting. But whatever.
Yeah.
I bought that green home finally, that green Tanzania from Keats. It's been here for a couple weeks. It ate a couple times.
Oh, the male, right?
Yeah, the green male. Yeah. So.
How's the color developing on that one?
Crazy. It's crazy. Like still like real pale green and got like pale oranges on there.
Oh, you got green on it already?
It's green, yeah. It's real light mossy green, yeah.
Yeah. Mine is still kind of like yellowish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nah, this is definitely green looking still.
A few moments later.
I'm on like Starlink now, so I think we're golden. Do I sound good?
You're
sound
not
better.
freezing. Last time you were pixelated and freezing,
Yeah.
so it should work.
Yeah, I live a less than basic life. No, I live the most basic bitch life you could possibly have. All right, so we were bouncing around about mutations, kind of get into that a little bit. Fucked up the whole rhythm, of course. You guys remember where we left off? You want to start off fresh on a different topic?
You were going with druid stuff for Elijah, like the combos of the Lucistic.
Yeah, we're digging into the yeses and nos. Elijah, you ready to move on, right?
Yeah.
Got our druids out. We got our druids out. How about this? For either part of the community, have you guys ever had any lost genes in time projects that somebody had, looked genetic, disappeared, like anything you guys wish proved out? Matt, you want to start out? You've been down there.
Man, it's like taking me a minute to think.
Elijah?
Yeah. We know what's funny is like, so there was a marble looking animal back in the day on the Blood Python forums. There was bloodpython.com forums. And I believe some guy, Mike or something, had it, and I'm pretty sure Kara wound up with it. I don't know what she wanted to do with the project, but it was a little bit crazier looking than all the marbles that were out there. And I don't know whatever came of them, but fast forward, I did something that exceeded that, what I thought that would be. So I was like, when I saw that and it kind of fizzled or disappeared, I was pretty like butthurt about it because I was like, man, I would have liked to get my hands on something like that because it was definitely was creeping up on the back, but a little bit. I don't know. It was weird to explain. That's all for Borneo's. Blood pythons, I've seen bloods. Elijah might be able to touch more on that. I've seen some blood pythons, and I was like, wow, that looks pretty crazy. And while he talks, maybe I'll think of it. So I'll let him go.
But wasn't there a T-neg for the Borneos that died?
There was in the UK a long time ago before like you even could have good pictures. It was pretty decent. Some random guy in the UK had it. It was like one stock, really bad photo of it, but it was pretty cool looking. It definitely was different looking than the red blood T negative. But nothing ever came of it. Now there's like T negative type stuff. I think Stephen Tillis is working on it, but I don't know how it works exactly. I think it's like 2 lines mixed, or he could cover that better, but I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that.
Yeah, I remember seeing the T-neg, and then I think someone had a calico looking Borneo one time too, right?
Yeah, there was a weird.
That was crazy looking.
Yeah, a weird looking calico thing that was like here and gone, and I think I think it was one of those things that like was in the egg and it looked full term. It almost looked like a Lucistic. It had like a lot of pink to it,
Mhm.
and it did like it. Nothing else looked like that. The guy never got nothing else again. I think so. I might be off on that one, but I believe I saw something like that, and not that it didn't matter to me really, but I mean it would have been crazy.
The thing was insane.
Yeah, calico with anything would be nice. Again, you know, when I think calico, I think real low on the animal, and whether you get it in bloods, I think batik calicos would be nice. You could fill in all that honeycombing with white, and with the bloods, of course, I'd probably put it right into the marble project, just see what it was going to do.
Yeah.
That's me
It was pretty
personally.
intense looking though. If I remember correctly, right? The white was like a lot of white,
Yeah, I think
right?
so. It was something like that. Yeah, I
And
can't remember the year, the time.
it almost reminded me of like a pied retic with the whites coming up the side or something
Yeah,
like that. And
it
then
was
the
something
rest of
like
the snake
that.
was really dark, like dark blacks on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was real weird. I know
Yeah,
that.
it was
I've definitely seen.
extreme.
So there's also these things in Indo that pop up, and I tried to get one. I wasted my money. It wasn't a lot of money. I knew I was taking a chance. And they just get these weird looking. I mean, it looks like a Borneo has all the Borneo traits. The colors are different than what we got here. The pattern's different. It's more of a like a reverse stripe, but the side patterning's real thin.
Mm.
But I've seen like multiple over there, and I had an opportunity at one, and you know, gave my money to someone that said they could definitely get it over here. Just fizzled out, and I lost money. But it wasn't a ton, and I knew the risk.
The
So with new stuff coming in, like, you know, a couple examples, like in the past in the community, of course, back in the day when Anaconda stuff was coming in, if you Googled Anaconda, Ben Rennick's name would come up, and those importers would just call Ben directly. You know, with the Labyrinth boa and boa constrictors, or the Labyrinth boa and Colombians, you know, Jeff Ronnie got that phone call, and Jeff Ronnie bought that animal right out of the wild. You know, I know there's been some guys looking for short tails and looking for bloods out there. Are those the only guys that are getting these animals? Or do guys like you ever get a phone call from a guy out of the wild saying, I got this animal for sale, do you want to buy it?
I've only gotten the call on the T positive Borneo when it first came in. Me and I believe Rob Christian were the first to get the calls, and I didn't have interest. I didn't have interest in buying it. I didn't have interest in partnering with the person. I mean, it's not that I didn't like it, but I didn't have to have it. I didn't love it. I didn't know enough about it, and it wasn't really. I wasn't willing to take that risk or spend that money. So that's about it. But that wasn't an Indo guy. That was someone already in the United States that had that.
Okay. You were shaking your head. No, you don't ever get that phone call, right?
Nah, yeah. I mean, I got the phone call for like the Druid project, but that was like a keeper, and Keith McPee was buddies with him. So Keith McPee, you know, recommended me when he was looking to get rid of it, and that was it.
Okay. You know, with you know, all these with Instagram especially, you know, I find most guys I talk to in the industry that are using Instagram, that's where they're getting a lot of their overseas customers from. So I wonder if you go a little harder on there, if there's certain people, if you start following on there, maybe you start getting that action. Because I always kind of wonder, like, how do you get your name on that list? Like, you know, how do you get that phone call when I want that phone call someday, you know?
I find that there's a lot of, I mean, a lot on Facebook, there's Indo groups dedicated to bloods of like mostly Indo keepers. And, you know, there's plenty of us from the US in there. I more or less get calls like, hey, can I get my stuff to them? Which I can't get it to them. They can't get their stuff to me. Like I've reached out to them, and there's a guy who we both know pretty well. And I don't know if like he's able to do it on his own. It's hard. And it sucks because he has like good stuff and good connections. There's been a couple guys like that over there, and I think it's been kind of difficult to get some of their stuff over here, and vice versa. Like I said, I don't know who I would plug into to get my stuff over there.
Yeah, I think we don't have we don't really have importers trying to import bloods right now or short tails, and they're out there though. You're seeing like every other year or two, you know, you see like some random looking animal that looks like something new in one of those Indo groups. But we don't have anyone. I think the last person that was really bringing in the stuff was Cam at Bushmaster.
Yeah.
That was about it. And then I think he kind of like stopped after the pie.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what camp that was. that was the connection, was Cam. He was bringing it all in. So
Yeah, he was like, he was the only guy really focused on bringing stuff in. After that, no one else has really, stepped up.
Okay.
From our end.
So I remember that picture of the original pied on that piece of wood with the spray paint writing in the background. It looked like a bigger animal. What year did that picture surface, and how many years later did we find out somebody's working with it? They got babies now. Like, was it on the DL for a while?
it was out there. No one knew who had it. We figured somebody had it, but I can't remember the year. Laz, you might know more about that.
I think it was 2014 when we first seen it, and back then we had the Curtis forum.
Yeah, you're right.
Before Facebook, I think that's when they first posted it. But if I remember correctly, I think there was two of them.
Yeah, there was that one, and there was supposedly another one that they weren't showing. And I remember when that first came on, it was kind of an argument if that was a blood short tail or a Borneo short tail, because it was no real info on that, just that picture. So no one really knew exactly. I mean, everybody thought blood. I thought blood, but there was still a little bit of mystery if that was a Borneo short tail or not.
Interesting. But what if it was and you guys treated it like a blood? You just not going to talk about it?
What do you mean?
Well, if it was a Borneo and you treated it like a blood project.
It wouldn't be as far along as possible. I mean, it would just get mixed into the Borneos. I guess I'd have pressure on me to get it, which I probably wouldn't drop that money on there. So probably some other dude would have got it and bought a bunch of stuff off of me and could have made money that way. I don't know.
All right. So by the way, when I said that word crossing earlier, I meant crossing your Borneo stuff, but I understand different communities, different language, and that's a trigger word. So that was my fault. But now that we've got there, so now let's talk about a little crossing, and then I want to get back to the Pied project. So is it a very small part of those communities that are actually putting blood mutations with Borneo mutations or doing anything? Or is that truly like being exiled from the community if you fuck around like that?
You want to go, Elijah?
I think I find it pretty rare now. I think when I started, 2014, they were doing that with like the ivories and the ivories to the Sumatrans. T-neck, some T plus to Sumatra. I know someone, Matt might know him, the dude up in he used to rent Hamburg.
Yeah, Joel.
Joel, he did that. And I think from there on it kind of died out. You occasionally get like the random keeper that does it once in a while now. But for the most part, I think, everyone's pretty much staying with, the select species to each other.
Yeah, the thing about that guy, Joel, he was a Hamburg guy. He had a lot of nice animals. He did a lot of shady business, and he was a bit of a nut. He was crossing stuff, and some days you catch him, he'd be pretty honest and upfront. Some days he would say they're not, and he had a big spiel about how that's how mutations are made anyway. It was hard to follow that guy. But yeah, they're definitely frowned upon in the blood short tail community. They can make awesome snakes if you keep on taking them back to each other, but they all can just look, no matter what combination, if you do a Sumatran short tail to a blood, if you do a blood to a Borneo short tail to a Sumatran short tail, they can all kind of look like each other. The first couple generations are ugly. And yeah, I mean, there's just really no point of it, because you go down that road, it's going to start getting, how big the hobby is, how much stuff changes hands. It's just going to get sloppy. It's going to get messy. People are going to not, either out of ignorance to make a couple dollars, not even knowing, they're going to misrepresent it one way or another. Someone that's up and coming might take that and breed it to something and just start a mess.
Okay. Like one thing was behind the scenes and some corn snake mutations was, I've heard over the years they've taken milk snake mutations, bred it to a corn, and then after 2 or 3 generations, all of a sudden it looks like a corn snake again, and you have now taken that mutation out of the milk snake. So with that kind of same logic, if the Borneos did want a pied and they did put it in, and maybe 2 or 3 generations in of not putting any more actual blood into it, you may have an animal that's very Borneo type, but it is just a high percentage of pure blood. You think a thing like that would be accepted in the community to move that mutation over?
No.
No?
Not a chance, no.
No, that's fair. Hey, we're making designer pets sometimes, man. I'm
But it'll happen.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Every blood python guy watching this is going to say this is why ball python guys shouldn't interview people from other species. But also in my defense, we fuck around a lot in boa constrictors. One of my favorite guys is definitely Del Bono with Da Vinci. That guy's crossing things. He's mixing it up. He's putting mutations from this locale to that locale. But then he's got his pure stuff. So I like that mix in that collection. And I'm not encouraging you guys to go that way, but I'm just saying, everyone else is doing it. What the fuck are you guys not doing it for?
I know me personally, I would never want to do that. I wouldn't want to go that direction. Like I said, even, go back to 2005, 2006, when it was a smaller, more tight-knit community, things were still sloppy and dishonest and all. And that's where it's going to come down to. When you do want something pure, I'm sure there's things out there we're working with that ain't. It's just, it is what it is at this point. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where you're at, and that's where it is. So then it's just going to become that. Next thing you know, you got it all over the place, and you don't know what it is. So I know with Borneo short tails, I would never want to go in that direction. I know we've had Sumatran short tails that only have a T positive mutation. Borneos kind of stay one color, but they vary in colors. So there's plenty of room to where we could have taken some of the cool blood mutations and crossed it, but no one really has yet. And some people that have and taken it far have gotten crucified for it. So it's just not, it doesn't fly over here. And I'm kind of glad it doesn't.
No, that's fair. Like I said, every community is treated differently. I just, sometimes people go certain directions and if it makes a nice animal. Do either of you guys follow?
Happen, though.
Oh, what's that?
I think it's going to happen, though.
Yeah. I think everything's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen with everything, sadly enough, because there's so many people coming in and people, I think hybrids will have like different species hybrids, which obviously if you do a blood to a Borneo, they're different species. They're not subspecies. But I mean like the Carpondro thing, the burn ball, everything's probably going to, 10 years, who knows what this hobby's going to look like. I don't know if I'm going to like it.
I mean, they do it with boas, right? Different species of boas.
Yeah, but nobody likes it. Who the hell likes them things?
Come on, man. I would say next to ball pythons.
But what is it? Don't they do that with carpets too?
Well, that's actually one of the things I was going to bring up.
They do a carpet bullen, which they call colons. It's terrible. Like I said, the Carpondro thing does look like there's some things that look pretty amazing, and even that really hasn't caught on. So I mean that would be the best case for hybrids, I would think, to catch on, and it's really not caught on. So that's sort of a good sign for people that don't like or don't want hybrids. But I don't know.
I will say this, man. You're going like Island of Dr. Monroe with these crosses. No one's putting a carpet python with a Carpondro. I mean, I get it. People are doing that, but we're talking about a short tail, a Sumatran, and a blood with very similar body structures,
Yeah,
but
I don't like
it happening.
It's just a conversation, guys. I don't even have fucking blood pythons over here. I got one. I'm not even fucking around. I'm
doing 4 hybrids, I just don't really I don't do hybrids between the 3 because there's still so much to do with just them as is.
No,
but I'm not gonna. I won't deny. I wouldn't mind seeing Sumatran short tail pied, solid black with the white coming through.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and I'm sure somebody like you might do that quietly and roll it out quietly and just see what people say, man. Do it for you, man. Do it for you.
I feel like that can be done pure. I mean, it'd be hard, but I mean, what's the Frost project, right? What is that about? That one that came out?
The super, it's kind of like a off black, dark gray coloration, solid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it can be done pure eventually. So
yeah, I mean, that's one way.
Yeah.
Every community.
That's what I said, though. There's a lot still to do. So I think, like, anyone that's hardcore with the bloods right now, breeder-wise, there's really no reason for us to do it, But other people might, and once we get to a certain level, who knows what happens.
Yeah, and like I said, there's some dumbass hybrids out there. I agree. But, there's certain, like, when you talk about the carpet pythons, too, there is a lot of crosses. I was going to mention, do you guys follow Don Patterson up in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay, did you see his clutch he posted about a week ago where he does, I think it's the stonewash Brettles to, I want to say Jags? And he makes
I must have missed that, but I might have seen that being so close with so many Morelia people.
He's done that a couple times in the past. Elijah, I'll send you the pictures afterwards. They're pretty fucking baller for a carpet python, but it's just something that could never be created unless they went the direction they did. And even last week, my first podcast on this channel was talking with Ron St. Pierre and Heather about skinks. And that's what's going on right now. They got all the mutations down there, but they're all eastern blue tongues. But you need to breed into the northern blue tongues. The purists don't want to do that, but they have viable mutations. You got to cross those two together to have viable mutations. So now that community has mutations, that's just a common knowledge. This is what it's going to take if you want to do this. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. So again, every community is modeled differently. But again, blue tongues just got their first mutations being produced in the United States in numbers, but they got to be hybrids. If they're not a hybrid, they're not even worth working with. The albino eastern is weak. Doesn't want to breed, doesn't want to do shit, but you get that northern blood in there, which is a bigger animal, they do significantly better. So that's the trade-off, I guess, in that community, and we're different in every one. So I want to talk about the pied a little bit, because I mentioned before we did this podcast, I want to talk pied. So we talked about this before when it came to what crosses are going to do things that are unexpected in the pied. When you do a druid to it, is it going to accidentally make a white snake? Kind of like how some of the bell-line leucistic animals and ball pythons make white snakes when you go pied. The spot-nosed ball python to a pied is a white snake. The lesser is a white snake. Lots of ways to make white snakes and also reduce pattern animals you can't get the pattern back on. You guys have any suspicions on the outside looking in on how some of these genes might react in pied, maybe in a good or bad way? And I'll let you start on that because you got the pied project.
Yeah, I think that's probably what might happen. An all white snake.
Yeah.
I can't really see pattern coming through it.
Okay. And now, do you think that might happen with a couple of things? Do you think GoldenEye might accidentally do that? Do you think, what are your thoughts? I know we're just guessing right now, but we're going to do this podcast in 10 years. We're going to see how right you are.
It's tough. So maybe what, like a magpie, super druid or something like that?
Yeah. You're probably not just throwing white patches on some of these super forms. I don't know when you do the super.
Tough.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, the batik. The super batik is patternless, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd make a cream animal with little white spots on it. I don't know how that pattern would balance out with that. I don't know if you get an even flow or if the pied would take over too much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to get a lot of that in some of these projects.
Yeah. Yeah. Super batiks will be tough. You lose those during incubation for the most part. And if you are lucky to hatch one, it's pretty much going to be kinked or something. Usually maybe a tail kink. And they kind of look like a champagne ball python, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that'll be a pretty hard project to hit, and maybe more likely a waste of time trying to go for super batiks.
Okay. I didn't know about the super having issues. I'll make sure to stay away from that.
They're kind of like the super zebras of carpets. They do the same thing. They're kind of the same. I think smaller eyes too happens with them. They're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I usually lose a quarter, if not half, the clutch anytime I do anything that's batik back to batik. So that pretty much, I've done a lot of them. I've probably done, since I started, half a dozen between different combos, all batiks. I've always lost pretty much everything. I think I only produced one. I think it was the only one I ever produced was a T plus, super batik, and it just had a minor tail kink at the very end, and that was it. But other than that, you're usually gonna lose all the eggs probably around between 3 to 4 weeks in of incubation.
I didn't know anything about that. For some reason that's never come up in conversation. What about you, Matt? Looking on the outside in with pied, I know you're not in the project, but is there anything when you look at that gene you would want to do with it and what you think your results might be?
As far as the thing that you were guys talking about, you guys are much more versed in all the piebald stuff with ball pythons and everything. I don't know, but I just think a true, something really, really red, which obviously is doable into a pied, is going to look probably pretty cool. Just a really red and white blotchy pied, that's going to be pretty cool.
Okay.
Because I would say, what else? Is there a ball python that's a true red or anything retic pieds are different. They're not like that. So I don't think there's any true just red and white pod. I think if you were to take like seems like the red X albino gene in bloods is like very, very red. If you were to do that to the piebald, I think you would just have like red and white patches for the most part, but faint pattern, if I was guessing.
Okay. I think you might be right. What are your thoughts on adding like a nice dense red or red pigment to the background without like the obvious like cherry bomb? You guys still cherry bombing nowadays?
There's
Yeah,
still
I still
cherry
have cherry
bombs.
bombs.
Yeah, cherry bombs are really red too. I feel like I seen red X's that were just more saturated red, almost like takes over the whole pattern. To be honest, I don't like a red X on its own, but a cherry bomb on its own is really cool because it gets a lot of lavender around the pattern, like a lot of purple.
Okay.
So yeah, that could be cool too.
And you, anything red that you think you could throw in there to make it a little better or denser?
Yeah, I mean most of T plus stuff, some especially
Team
cherry
eggs.
bomb,
Your team egg stuff's
T-neg,
crazy, man.
T-neg, line breeding that to get really that the cherry bomb you're gonna get. If you was to get a cherry bomb pie, that's gonna be a really red animal with purples.
Yeah,
Because that's where you get the lavenders. But if you want the higher contrast, where you want the whites and the reds and oranges and stuff, you'll probably need T-neg for that.
Okay. What that one project that Tracy had, they it affected the eye of the albinos. You got that solid red eye.
Red eye, yeah, red eye albino, red eye
Just red
T-neg.
eye albinos. And that the eye is its own gene though, something separate that popped up in her albinos, right?
I don't know much about it. Like I said, Tracy still has some genetics. Like we were just talking about that Frost project. That's something they posted on their like blog a couple of years ago, and we don't know what's come of it really. I mean, it was really cool. There was like a T positive one and a regular one, and the regular one was almost all black. And what was the T positive one was
Almost all lavender.
yeah, that's what I mean. They were calling it like fire and ice or something like that. It was
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So she still has a lot of weird genes floating around over there that they like slow. Like I said, the wrought iron was one that like forever we saw, and then it trickled down, and a couple people got it, and they're working with it now. So
Yeah, I've known Tim Bailey for a long time. So when he first got that animal, I was talking to him a good bit about it. Try to keep an eye on his breeding every year with that animal. Like I said, I think there's just a lot you could do with that color tone, and it's something a little different from everything else.
yeah, it's definitely a different looking animal than the wrought irons.
Yeah, like, do you think some of these projects will get lost with VPI? Like, I don't even see their website open anymore. I used to go on there all the time and look at the galleries. It doesn't exist anymore. Like I know Dave with what is it? Electric Reptiles, I believe. He does all the anoles, the Cuban anoles. Is he still helping her out, or is it just mysteries what's going on in Texas?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
no.
the site's still up for me when I check it. I mean, nothing really gets too updated, but and their gallery thing has changed. I think the last time their galleries, it'll like if you go to their galleries, it'll be I think like 2022. There might be some 2023 stuff on there, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's just going to slowly enter or trickle down. And
I
up
think a
until
lot of
last
that
year, I
stuff
could
is gone.
contact Tracy some
Done.
because the book is still supposed to happen. So we were still in contact about the book and stuff like that. And I was still trying to get some animals, some of the Borneos they had left off of her. But then kind of communications quieted down. I don't know. I imagine retirement's happening. I've been hearing for years it's happening. So I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on.
Elijah, you think that group already got moved out and somebody's quietly working with it?
I don't know if someone's quietly working with them or if they're just gone for good.
Okay.
Because it doesn't make sense. She's had, probably half a dozen mutations like lined up for since I started in 2012. And Tim Bailey got the only one, which was raw iron some years back. Chris at Giant Keeper Reptiles got into the real Toba, and that's it. Frostbite, haven't heard about it.
And then there's like a black smoke, I think, and I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of weird genes.
She had a lot of stuff there, but even if you talk to Tim Bailey, every time I talk to him, I think it's like hard for him to get in contact with her or get stuff from her. So like,
I think it's there or it's with somebody trusted, and it's going to slowly. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to enter. I guess the pie is pretty big, but it's it's like you went to see, you seen one pied, now there's a couple people with pieds, and it's still huge. No one's really buying them, and their prices up there. But I don't think anything like, it's not like a blockbuster type of thing like back in the day, you know. So I don't know if it's a thing to sit on and just introduce when you have a whole bunch. But we've seen bloods do that before. It's definitely like a breeder in Florida that takes some of this stuff and you don't see it until they produce a lot of it. That's happened quite a few times.
Okay.
So yeah, like
So
I mean, so talking about teen eggs, I was talking about Elijah when we were cutting out. Like when I first saw teen eggs in Daytona, they were $20,000 a piece, and literally I didn't see two of them. There was a table with like 40 of them, and there were no hets. So there's a certain breeder in Florida that takes a project, they work on it, and they don't introduce it until they have a solid amount, and then they, you know, kind of unveil it. But it's not, it never goes online. It just sort of shows up in Daytona, and then after that, it goes crazy.
the releasing of a project in the hobby for something new, I've always found is like, you guys know there's a lot of ways of doing it. And I like the idea of getting out a little early, but I still like to understand the project. I've seen projects where people have let them go before they even know if there's a super form. Some people will only sell females and make you watch them make every other combo possible while you're sitting on one female. I never really know the proper way to release a project. Of course, making 1,000 of them to just drive your own price down doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. How about this? You guys have both rolled out projects. Matt, starting with you, when you first rolled out the Ocelot, buddy, how did you do that? Did you hoard, or right away when you knew you had something, did you let a couple guys get in with you?
I hoard it. I hoard everything.
Yeah.
I showed it off at shows. I sold stuff that was connected to the clutch, kind of not knowing what it was, but I did have it marked up. And I even got solid offers on the first couple oscillats that I was showing off, but I turned it down because I didn't know what it could be. And honestly, I didn't, I wanted it for myself, but I also was like, this may never happen again. So you might get beaten. I know the person has to know that, but yeah, I've definitely let go of the other stuff in the clutch the first year, but I put a pretty good price tag on it. And so far it's always worked out for me for the most part. That's for Borneos though, too. It's not a $20,000 ball python project by any means. You're talking $5,000 and under pretty much, and not even $5,000 usually. So that's kind of how I did it. I would show it online, bring it to a show it off, and I'd have to sit there and explain it, obviously, the way Borneos work. So,
Okay. Well, Elijah, with the druid, like you said, you got that from Guy and you developed the project yourself. Am I right?
Yeah.
So you had the first chance. When you rolled out your animals, how did you manage that the first round?
I produced 6 of them, 2 males and 4 females, and I let one go to Mark Kirkpatrick at Bloodborne Reptiles.
Okay.
That's the buddy of mine. I got a bunch of animals from him, so and I produced the look. He took a female, and then a few years later, when I had the males up to size, I bred them to a few females. That's when I started producing combos with them, like the Phantoms, which were pretty wild condom. Is the combo is the Golden Eye Druid, and a few of the other ones, like the sub-adults and adults I just showed you earlier. And I pretty much kept all of them until last season when I was able to breed the 3 females I held back.
All right. So I imagine, seeing you gave him first dibs on a female, he probably again had first dibs on a male, and I guess that's the way you'd want to handle that project, right? Keep one guy connected to it.
Yeah, I had with Mark. Mark had actually got out. He he took a break for a while. He's still on break, so he didn't come when I produced them last year. No, the year before was when I first started producing them again. So he never came back for it. But this season he's looking for a male now. So I got to give him a male so he go with that, because basically the female he has, she could have bred for him last season. So
just didn't put her to work.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
As far as I know, Mark's out. As far as I know.
Yeah, he still has his stuff. So his collections with the partner he had. When I spoke to him, yeah. So, but I think Mark, he wanted to focus on family, another business, something like that. So, I spoke to him just a couple months ago. So,
Okay.
Right. Well, so it's pretty obvious on the market what you're asking for your projects. Like you said, Borneo stuff, you kind of have that range of 5 or under. You know what the community is going to put out on these mutations. In the blood game, though, depending on the mutation, the sky's kind of the limit. Or do you think there's like a top out price that's like, just, like, 30 is the most you'll ever get, or 20 is the most you'll ever get, even if we're talking like a pied? Or do you think there's bigger buyers in the blood community?
yeah, there's way bigger buyers in the blood community.
Okay, so what do you think? Because in my opinion, the pied is always one of the most important genes in a community. Do you know what the early pied sold for? Well, I know you kind of know, but
Yeah.
north of 30?
What?
Was it north of 30? And then we don't have to say anything else.
It was in the 20s.
Okay, respect. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of, you make all your money back on only $25,000 in a project. All right, that's a good price point. In the Borneo community, what do you think a pied would start at market for pure?
Probably a little less because it's just Borneo. It's probably 15, 17,000. I would imagine. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sort of the guy for Borneos. Could I try to make the market crazier? Sure, but it's a real niche community for Borneo short tails. But yeah, I'm sure it would command some money, and I'm sure I probably wouldn't be the guy to get it. So I'd be the guy helping the guy because like I said, I feel like if a guy got that, it'd be a blood guy, which I'd be talking to already anyway, or it'd be someone taking a shot on it, and I'd be trying to help them through it, or giving them animals to plug into it. I would imagine. So
Okay, just because you guys were talking shit about boas earlier, so I hear that the pied boa, there was price tags around $250,000 if anybody wanted to buy the first one.
that's insane.
So
That's
I'm just
crazy.
saying, you talk your shit. We start out a little higher in the boa community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but Dave, you don't think that's nuts? Like, I think we're at the point in herpetoculture where we haven't learned a lesson to stop making snakes $50,000 because it's too crazy. I mean, you can't tell me it's. I get it, but I mean, the higher the price, the worse shit happens. The more backstabbing, the lower that animal drops out of nowhere. Have we seen this? You know what I mean? Like I feel like 25, 30 is probably right where it should be. I feel like
okay.
anything above that to me is it's just crazy.
So it's crazy. I agree. I agree it's crazy, but there's some crazy people in this hobby, man. And I think the way I always put it is challenge the market and see what it's going to pay you. You put something out there and you're not getting any love, come down a little bit, accept it. But, sometimes this market will surprise you with somebody who wants to come out at a one-of-a-kind thing, or, again, something that there's 5 of a kind, but you're first one to buy. So, every community is going to be treated differently. But I don't see a problem in that high-end market because you're not talking backyard breeders at that point. You're talking about guys that had enough money to drop $250,000 on a snake. It's a different class of people. You'd like to think the care is going to be different. And I'm sure if that project didn't work out for them, they're probably going to be okay. But I get what you're saying because I want a taste of everything and I can't afford the high-end project always. What are your thoughts on that, Elijah? You found it coming out too high, or since you think the pie should have been a little higher, maybe see what the market did?
I think for what it is, it was pretty all right. I don't think, I think, the bloods and shorts aren't up there with like ball pythons and stuff like that, and boas. So it makes sense where it was at.
You really can't compare things to ball pythons. There's too many breeders.
Yeah.
And when you add people to it, there's always maybe a little more money you can get out of something because it's more competitive. All these markets are competitive, but they all have their certain size in the hobby. We'll always know that. Ball pythons are their own set of rules. They play by it's just ball pythons are ball pythons. That's all you got to say. I remember he called back in the day buying a Lucistic out of the wild for $100,000, and it never bred for him ever. Like guys back then just did some crazy shit. But I knew guys nowadays do crazy stuff too. Let's see. Where do we want to go with this? Oh man, pausing. I usually don't pause this long. I'm doing a little more fluid. I kind of want to keep on spouting market stuff, to be honest with you. Well, how about this? So I want to have a little more on this pie. When you get around to producing pies, of course, the markets can be dictated by the other people in your market. And there's only a few guys working with the pie project. Is there like common ground in that group where you guys are kind of communicating, or is it going to be he posts for 25K, then he posts for 22.5, and then it's 20,000? Or is there going to be an understanding among breeders?
Right now, I think it's going to be understanding because there's only a few of us, and we're, pretty much the guys kind of moving it, pushing the species and the morphs and stuff like that. So like Nick at Cold Blooded Earth, he's got the first hets on the market. You know what I'm saying? So whatever he's pricing his animals, I'm gonna stay right there with it. Pretty much the same thing.
Isn't there one on Morph Market, a pure one, that ball? It's like 18.5.
Oh no, so that one's actually a Parthenogenesis pie.
No shit.
That's why that one I think's had a hard time. That's from John, which is another good dude. But that was a Parthenogenesis, so that's probably why it's been up there so long.
You guys have any experience in breeding Partho babies in your community?
I produced fucking, what do you call it? 5 Parthenogenesis magpies between 2 clutches.
Okay. And you still got them?
No, I just actually shipped out one today. I sold another one a couple weeks ago, and I have a few left. And they are 2022s.
22s? Okay. So I like the Partho stuff. Love the Partho conversation because it's big in boas. And the more mutations you put in these animals, when you get these outcomes that don't belong, it's Partho.
Yeah.
I do know of some Partho litters in boa constrictors because it started with the Boa and Carmel project, and some of those original Partho females were sold, and I think one of those animals either bred or actually Parthoed again. I know there's been a little bit of success, but I do know long term I've always heard a lot of bad things about Partho. So I don't know. That might be a little bit of a risky one, not to be an asshole. I just don't know what happens in your guys' community. Like, I know a Partho ball pythons I think have bred, but in boas, wasn't super successful in boas.
Oh, okay. I was under the understanding that, or at least I thought you could, females never would reproduce.
So again, I've talked to Warren Booth about this, and some of it I do get mixed up on. The original Boa and Carmel, like I said, I know there was one baby I thought from that litter that Parthoed later in its life. There was a BPI litter that was produced by Jeff Ronnie one time, and I think he put them out super cheap on, just super cheap. I don't know if I've heard a record on them. I don't think it's impossible. I do think there is cases, but you got to remember in boas, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases. Last year, I think I had 2 Partho litters, and I feel like every year I get at least 1 Partho baby. So maybe because we have more, there's just a better chance of it happening, but it is a rarity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Mine are 2022s. I don't even know if I've even heard of Partho bloods or short tails before that. Matt would have to.
I'm not. I have no experience with any of that. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone that ever produced Partho bloods or shorts, but yeah, mine's a 2022. So people that are getting them, if they want to breed them and experiment and let us know, that'd be pretty cool later on down the line. Because I also was under the thought that Partho animals didn't live as long either.
Shorter lifespans. Like I said, the Partho thing typically doesn't work out, and that's the reality. I don't know how old some of those original litters that we knew for sure were Parthos. And where you guys talk about like you say, maybe Matt, you've never seen it before. Well, you might not even know if you've been a Partho baby because, with him where he hit the super form based on the female and it was impossible in his male, he knew which one were his Partho babies.
Yeah.
You could have made some Parthos over the years and just not known it because, that should happen. You didn't have the gene to let you know it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's the only reason that, Parthos are a little more common now is because when the outcome doesn't come out the way it should have, that's usually the explanation. But, I like that you guys are getting a little Partho over. That's kind of cool. But, it sucks when it's a high dollar clutch.
Oh no, it sucked. For me, it really sucked because I did the two clutch. So I bred a female goldeneye, het T plus, and a female magpie, petite, het T plus. Both girls I bred to pollen male for het T plus.
Yeah.
Both girls, I lost nearly all the eggs in both clutches with just, I think, 3 eggs from one and 2 eggs from the other, making it or something like that.
Yeah.
Both clutches gave me twins too on top of it. So one, the twins hatched out real tiny, they died. The other one, the twins died with dead in the egg. So that kind of really messed me up because they bred to the same male. So for that season, I thought I hit fucking what you call it? I was calling them snowstorms. I don't know if you have seen that post.
I remember that. Yep, I remember.
Because I thought that was the pollen, the mix between the pollen and the goldeneye, right? What's the odds of you hitting 2 fucking Partho clutches bred to the same male?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it didn't make no sense to me. And then, this season now is when I bred actually the same pollen male, back to another goldeneye, and then I did his son, which is a flower, the super version of the pollen, to a magpie batik, I think, or goldeneye, something like that. One of those. I gotta check again just to see if it was, I was right. And it wasn't. So it told me then that they were I got hit with fucking Partho baby magpies.
So, by the way, I just want to say, especially for the Bloods, it's really nice you got this surge of new mutations over the last, 5-10 years. Yeah. Not that it was stagnant by any means, but holy fuck, you guys got a lot of new stuff to play with just in the last couple of years. I mean, the pollen is fairly new. Druid's pretty new. You guys got the pied you're fucking with now. I feel like there's a couple other things in there we're missing. So at least those 3 genes.
Yeah, you got like I said, Nick has Sunder. He discovered that one in his collection. There is Toba. Hopefully we find out more on that. I think Chris has done something with that this year. Tim Bailey has Raw Iron. So there's still a bunch of those. Like I said, there's still a lot of shit too in Indo.
Yeah,
that would be nice to get out there.
Flower stuff's kind of new and not worked on a lot. Same thing with Zigzag. Same thing with Slackline. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Zigzag's a really fucking crazy one. A little bit of a pain in the ass to figure out, but that was a pretty good one to see what's gonna happen with that.
The Lily gene has been around forever, but people are starting to talk about it again.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of weird shit.
Yeah.
Zigzag was a Tracy one also, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I feel like I just remember those old pictures. And, one thing I wanted to fit in when we were doing the Tracy talk earlier where, you were saying, maybe these animals don't exist anymore just because why are the projects not further ahead? So the Midnight Gin Boa, which I believe was a recessive IMG project she had, it's been over a decade, and I've never seen another one produced. I want to say late 2000s, mid 2000s, she hit on a patternless ball python. And I think it took 13 to 15 years after that before you saw another patternless ball python. So I wouldn't think the animals aren't there. I just do believe that their motivation is a little more with writing, care, and everything else. I don't think the breeding aspect is always the most motivating factor for them. Where for us, we want to push hard on that kind of stuff. I've seen them really take their time on a lot of projects, so I wouldn't count them out, is the way I'd put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But fucked up the flow. But so how about this? What have been has there been any surprises in the Borneos that you guys have had? Are you guys running into allelic projects yet? Is there anything funky happened genetically that was unexpected, or everything's been pretty much cut and dry?
Everything's kind of funky with the Borneo projects. I mean, it all kind of goes sideways. There's so much variability in there. It's like I said, when you're working on specific things, they don't throw too many. I mean, how much they vary, yeah, that's crazy, but not too many crazy outlooks or out of left field things come out. But Yeah, like I said, all their genetics are kind of crazy. It's weird. I'm guilty of it too. If we had more normals, we could probably work this stuff out. Problem is, like, we don't get imports. We don't really get normals. There are normals out there. It's just hard to trust that they are completely normal for the most part. And there are some people out there. I'd be pretty picky with my normals. I would love to get like some fresh, real import Borneos that are just regular normals, and I could pick through them almost like, like the bush baby ball pythons in the 10-gallon tanks. I would love an opportunity like that. I mean, you used to be able to get that a little bit, but not, just doesn't happen anymore, really. So I would
It's
love
not
to start.
illegal to ship Borneos in, is it?
No, it's just nobody's doing that with bloods either. I mean, there's like, you would think you would see with all the blood python mutations, and some of them are kind of subtle, you would see somebody have a bunch of blood pythons and you would want to pick through them, and it doesn't happen. It's just not there.
So, that is kind of a complicated thing to get into because, as you guys know, you got to create a relationship over there. Sometimes you got to front the money ahead of time to even get them to want to go out and collect for you. So you don't think really any Borneos or bloods are coming in at all, though? Like, you don't think, 100 a year at least, or do they just literally don't exist?
Farm hatch stuff still comes in, right? Pretty sure. Here and there.
Some, I don't think a lot though. You don't.
Yeah, but I don't think no one's picking through stuff. That's the problem. Is we don't have no one specifically going out there or dealing with someone out there that does it. Because, like I said, you got Lucky. Matt was probably talking about him earlier. Lucky Uris, which is working with different projects. If he had someone that could help him get stuff out here, he'd be motivated to probably grab more stuff because he's coming across other hunters that are bringing stuff to him. But since we don't have no one on our end really focusing, bringing the stuff back, it's kind of like dead where it's at right now.
Is that a species, or are these species that get used a lot for the skin trade over there?
I believe the red bloods, yes, not everything. I do believe the Brongers gets more used for the skin trade than Sumatran shorttails or Borneo shorttails.
Okay, and so in some cases, I do think there's been relationships set in the hobby with people that go and talk to those guys and let them know, hey, you find that animal, right?
There was articles about that. Yeah, that basically the skin trade was, and that was red bloods, Brongers where if something came in, grab it, they would let the female have the eggs and let them sit on the eggs, and they would re-release that back into the wild. I mean, obviously those guys were working with countless numbers, so they knew right away. And they were actually, like I said, that was something I think Cameron worked out pretty much. So it was back in one of the Daytonas, there was a blood symposium that was awesome, and that was up there. That was like a real controversial slideshow. He was up there talking about it, and half the crowd they hated it because they're like, "Oh, you're cool," I think it's crazy. They're like, "You're just going to let them skin them?" Like he has to say it, you know what I mean? It was kind of crazy. But it was a good thing. I mean, if you look at it, these guys were letting these snakes have their eggs and re-releasing stuff. They weren't just keeping everything back, and you were able to get crazy looking blood mutations.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same way they do with the ball python farms. They collect the gravid females, save the female just in case there's something weird in the clutch, and then it's kind of like a package deal almost.
Yeah.
Unless they just decide,
Yeah, the other thing is the internet being so easy now, too. I don't think everything... So back then, I mean, not saying they should get ripped off or whatever, but people were getting, you were sending money over there, not like it was now. Now some of the prices are a lot more driven up. Some of them might be even unrealistic of what people over there want. And it's just like, that can't happen. You know what I mean? So it's not as easy as it used to be, price-wise, from what I understand.
I'd figure that. And, me and you at the NARBC, Elijah, we talked about import-export. And we've talked a little bit since then. Now, here's the reality, and here's my motivation for you. You can do it all yourself, buddy. Like, you could file the paperwork. You can get your import-export permits. You got major airports where you're at. Creating relationships with guys. I mean, this might sound weird, but I always feel like relationships work in those situations when there's an equal chance for both parties to stab each other, and I think there's a mutual respect there. So as long as people don't think you're a bitch or a punk, I find a lot of those deals overseas work, but a lot of the guys I know got fucked over the years usually look like the kind of guys who are going to get fucked over. So, I encourage you, man. The paperwork's not that hard to do. If you need a real scummy motherfucker to go over there for you, if you know that Blakey 2-inch buddy, he'll roll over there, give him a little bit of money for hookers, and he'll do everything else for you. He'll make those relationships happen. But like I said, the import-export permit stuff really used to scare me. I talked to Mike Schultz about it, and yes, it is work, but man, it's not that much work. It's just a little bit of reading to get rolling. So, where you guys are talking about how there's an opportunity in this market, somebody's going to fill that gap at some point. Could be you. I know, Matt, you're probably not interested. Fuck, you got a day job. You're happy as can be. But I don't know, man. I encourage you to get moving on that because I've always liked the Bloods. And the more mutations a community gets, the more people want to join the community. And like you said, get some fresh blood in there so you can actually start outcrossing some of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That sounds like something I will talk to you about.
Yeah, like I said, I like to encourage people because I'm not that motivated, and I don't have an airport within 3 hours from me, so I'd have to drive like 9 hours to do shit.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, it's creating that relationship, and that skin trade thing is just such an great idea, man. Find those skin trades, get talking to those guys, see what they offer the animals up, and even if you got to pay a little bit extra, you're still the guy, But no, like I said, if there's room in that industry, I think we talked about that part of the industry. Because all right, done. What else on your guys' mind today? I'm all over with this kind of stuff. You know me. Was there something we were going to talk about?
No, I mean, well, you asked me and Elijah know each other. We're kind of in on a project together that's non-blood related. We are in a green Sanzinia project together. I mean, it's a big group project. So,
Okay.
I mean, we knew each other way before that. But that's one thing we're doing. It. I think we're both pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So.
Talks about those animals. Not something you see every day in the hobby. What do you guys know about the breeding on those? Is there anything tricky you guys got to worry about?
We're really not breeding ours too much. They're kind of all in one spot, and they're getting worked out that way. And we're sort of hoarding them and going to all get our own and start plugging them in, and I guess slowly be distributed out into the public, kind of that way.
That's tight. Beautiful animals. Something you don't see every day, and I'm sure if somebody saw that on a table, it'd be appealing. I think if someone saw that anywhere, it's appealing. Other than that, you guys doing any new projects? Or are you guys pretty much married to what you guys are doing now?
No, I just hatched rough scale pythons for the second time. I like rough scale pythons a lot, so
Right.
that's really cool. I got a Suriname true red tail boa. Gonna drop a litter. It looks like it's gonna be my first time getting a litter of them. I've done I've done the South Brazilian Amarilla a couple times. You know that, Dave. You had some.
Love your Amarella. The best in the whole fucking country, buddy.
Thank
Nothing
you.
compared to those.
Thank you. I know you said that. Thank you. So I got that going on. I'm excited about those things. And like I said, last year I did Sri Lankan pythons. Gave them the year off because I got 6 eggs, but they all kind of hatched wonky. They all had the fluid eyes that wouldn't go down, some kinks, weird stuff. So I'm going to breed them again next season. I'm pretty excited about them, along with all the other weird stuff I got going on.
Right. You, same as last time, man. I don't know if we did this conversation yesterday or a year ago.
What happened?
Oh, I was talking to Elijah, man.
Okay.
Same on your end. What do you got rolling?
Right now, actually this week, my last het pied clutch for blood pythons is gonna hatch any day now. So I'll have a couple het pied clutches for this season. I do have possibly a new mutation. I haven't shown the parents, the clutch, or anything for bloods yet. I'm waiting for those babies to really get off with eating and seeing how they do before I post that project. That one's definitely not going anywhere because there's only a few of the animals I think is a new mutation in that one. And then I have a female green anaconda. She's gravid, and I bred her to one of Ben Rennick's, het T plus males.
Yeah.
So looking forward for that too. I guess she'll probably be dropping this time next year, something like that.
That's tight, man. Congratulations on that. That's fucking awesome. Love that. Let me see here. So on the sales ends of things, like I haven't paid a lot of attention to this morph market auctions yet. And when I initially had these conversations with the guys, it was pretty much all blood python guys. I know a couple of boas have trickled on there, but is the blood and short tail community even using that part of morph market or not fucking around?
Nah, they're using it.
They're using it? All right.
Yeah.
How are the prices been looking? You guys been paying attention to that kind of stuff? Is it going high? Is it going low?
I don't know. I mean, I did it twice, and it went like right in the middle of what I was trying to get.
Okay. So you're happy with it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, are you doing like $500 animals retail and throwing them on there? Are you going a little higher? What's your sweet spot, you think, for that?
Around that to higher. Like the most highest blood I put on there was definitely higher, and that was just to move her out in enough time because I had one final female I have to move up into her tub for this upcoming season. So, but a lot of everything else I put on there on auction is pretty much ball pythons.
All right. I played with the balls a little bit on there. I think my first round I was surprised. I mean, don't get me wrong, they weren't all stars, but man, they fucking went low. But again, there's so many on there, it's just kind of expected. But my bow went a little low too. I tried an IMG bow, which I usually wouldn't do. It only got up to like 475, and then the very next day I went to a show in St. Louis and I sold it for $1,100. So I thought maybe something like an IMG, because a lot of people love them, they sell well at the shows, would do well in the auctions. Maybe I didn't get enough eyes on it, but it went a lot lower than I thought it would have. And again, I had a reserve on it, so I didn't have to sell it. But I almost didn't go reserve on it. I'm glad I did. Are you guys fucking with reserves? Or I know, Matt, you're not even playing with that, are you?
I have to renew my. I haven't had a Morph marketing account in like 3 months. I want to renew it. If I get a sale that's solid, I'll renew it. You know what I mean? I do want to put stuff on there. It's worked for me in the past, but yeah, as far as auctions, I probably won't ever look at play with the auction thing. It's not for me.
No, I get that. And you're doing reserves when you do these animals, or you're putting them on there to sell?
Both. I've done probably half and half.
Okay. Cool. Do they usually hit the reserves, or do you had to actually keep some of these animals?
I would say more than half the time they've hit the reserve.
All right, respect. I like that. How's the new Hamburg show? You guys been at that one yet?
Okay,
Yeah.
You did more than me. Go ahead. You can take that one for now.
Yeah.
The last one we did all right. I moved, several animals. That was about it. The one before that one was pretty bad. That was like the first one back, I think.
Okay.
Or the second one back, something like that.
Yeah, I've only done one. I did the second one at June show. I took Jason Balin's table because he was off that day, and summer shows generally don't go well, so I didn't have high hopes, and it was worse than I thought. Like I said, the first one was in February, which the February Hamburg show was always a monster anyway.
Yeah.
And that was the first one at the new location, and it was insane in there. I went to go, I wasn't vending, and it was crazy, and people spent and all that stuff. So then, like I said, I think the next show was the April show. It toned down a lot. The June show might have been even more toned down. I don't know how the August show went, but I still think it needs to find its footing somewhat. It's definitely a much better venue than the other Hamburg show. I mean, the other Hamburg show was, like historic and iconic, but this is a much better, cleaner, bigger place. It's closer to me. I don't know how easy it is for everybody to get there from like New York and all. I heard the New York, for people that go, I've heard the New York crowd is down to where Hamburg, the New York people were there in full force. And now White Plains is back. So that's probably calming the New York crowd down even more. So I don't know. I mean, I hope it does well. I would like to vend a couple more shows there. It's just hard because you're kind of locked in. If you want to get your own table, you got to keep doing them. I'm not a 6-7 show person anymore, man. I want to do 1 or 2. I don't know if it's my old age or I want to be bougie or whatever, but I don't want to do 6-7 shows at a local show. So I can't do that crap anymore.
I like that show better when it was 3 to 4 a year. Same thing with White Plains. I thought, it created a little more urgency with the buyer. I think 6 or 7 shows a year takes the urgency off the table, and I felt like I was maybe making the same amount of money over 7 shows that I was over 3 or 4.
Yeah,
So,
it's super saturated here too, because along with that is the Oak show, and that's six shows also, and they're sometimes weeks apart, and then sometimes the Oak show lines up. That's a Saturday show, and the next day is the White Plains show, and that's close. And then there's a few Maryland shows, and there's a few. It's It's very saturated within, a 3-hour drive of me, with shows. So yeah, you're right. Like people could just, where people used to want to go because they're like, I gotta see what's there. People like, I could skip this one. I don't need supplies. I feel like it's more of a supply run for the hardcore people, and then it's more of a petting zoo kind of like, ooh, that's crazy. I never seen that before kind of thing for the most part. It kind of sucks because if it was, I prefer less shows. They could charge you more for a table. That's my personal opinion. I'd like that. I don't know about you, Elijah. That's how I'd rather go that way.
What? Say it again. The last thing you said.
I'd rather there be less shows and they can charge you more money for a table than having 6 shows a year for $100 a table. I take 3-4 shows and spend $250 a table. You know what I mean? But like I said, it's a lot of the show promoters. They're not breeders. They're not keepers, really. I mean, they might have some. So it's all about through the door, the tables, the food sales, everything like that. So they don't care that much what we have to say.
No, I get that. So Elijah, I want to bring you back to this new mutation you hinted at a couple of minutes ago. Without getting too crazy about it, I know there's a secret behind this. So when you say you see something, are you having to look really closely, or do you see something in this? You just don't know if it's genetic yet.
I'm pretty sure it's genetic because it's just like the mom, and the mom is the only one that looks the way she looks out there.
Okay, good. And is this a subtlety trait, or is this something like, wow, this thing messed it up a little bit?
It messed it up.
Messed it up? All right, good. I didn't know if we were tiptoeing in with something really subtle the way you were saying it, man. I know you're going to be secretive. I don't blame you. I'm going to probably message you afterwards. I'd love to see some shit. But no, okay, that's tight. Well, shit, I just want to ask more questions about it, but I know you got probably a big plan about it. I should shut up, right? Stop talking about
you
that.
can ask more questions. I don't know if I'll answer them all.
Well, man, sounds like a horrible relationship. I don't think I want to do that. I'll just weasel a picture out of you when you're ready. All right. What about this? So we covered the import game. We covered some of the follies that go with some of the breeding. We discussed the market pretty thoroughly in blood pythons. Where do you guys see, like, everything goes in decades? I'll go with each one of you guys. I'm going to start with you, Elijah. Based on the last decade of you breeding, what do you think the next decade of bloods is going to be like? You think it's consistently getting bigger and better every year, or do you think you guys have leveled out almost in a sense?
No, it's going to get better, bigger and better.
Just too much cool stuff, right?
I mean, we got, like I said, you got pied now. You still got the raw iron out there. Once that hits and people can get that into the pied, stuff like that, I think it's going to blow up more.
Okay. Show sales good on a blood python? Like, is blood pythons a better online sale, or do you think your show sales are worth the time?
For me?
Yeah.
The show sales have been pretty good. Like I said, the last Hamburg was pretty okay. The one before that wasn't, but that was my first time to that Hamburg. I also have a new show out here that I've done twice, which is the Electric City Expo. It's a much smaller venue. That's done good for me both times. It seems like there's new people that they don't even know the species that well, are new to it, and they jump right into it. Tinley does really good with the bloods for me. So I do move a lot of, even at the White Plains, the New York shows, I move a lot of the probably the lower stuff, $300 to $500 animals, $600 animals, nice red stuff. Some of the more common mutations that are a little lower end at those shows. So for me, it's definitely, doing the shows are definitely good. But I would say big sale wise, it's definitely online for the big stuff, like the druid stuff. Tinley is another one where you'll get, I've gotten the big buyers at Tinley for the higher end stuff as well.
Okay. Yeah, at least with like the high end projects, like, I don't spend a lot of time looking online for animals anymore. Like, I know what I like, I know who makes it, so I make a phone call. So if there's a high end project, I'm probably not gonna shop it. I'm just gonna go where I know to go. So the same thing with the bloods, I imagine with you, like, people know you have it, they just go right to you and get it. They don't go to a show to hope you're gonna have it on your table.
Yeah, I get a lot of repeat customers too. So that's one thing where I produced what I had, maybe half more than half a dozen druid combos and druids from last year. And those people, a lot of people that brought them that year are trying to buy stuff this year now as well. Some more combo stuff. So it's like, that's going to be probably a little difficult to get new people the project, get the project into newer people's hands, because I kind of got to look out for the people that have already spent for the animals before, especially for those that have gotten like just a single animal and they need the pair because they want to go for the super form, stuff like that. But there's definitely some really heavy hitters right now that are buying up a lot of the high end stuff.
I like that. And Matt, again, man, like I said, I know Borneos are consistent. Like you said, all your stuff always sells because, again, I love your stuff. Same thing he's saying with you, man. I mean, your balance is pretty much a lot of, if you don't have Morph Market right now, you're all show sales?
No, I'm not even doing shows. I'm getting just Facebook, advertising on Facebook, Instagram, direct messaging. I plan on getting back on Morph Market. I was doing okay on there. When I was doing shows, which I said was 2019 and under, I did really well. I feel like right now, things are usually good for me. I do need to, Elijah actually said this to me, and I was already thinking that, and that kind of gave me a push. This is my third podcast I've done in a little while. I need to get out there and promote a little bit more of the Borneo stuff, because there's not a lot of us keeping them anymore. It stinks. A lot of people kind of got out or just, moved on. And I think it's more fun when there's a lot of us doing it. And I think everybody does better when there's more of us doing it. So trying to show it off, trying to promote it more. But usual for me, I'm pretty steady. I mean, I felt it with the bad economy and climate for whatever, but things have randomly popped up, and they were, the random sales weren't just like nickel and dime all the time. It was like a really good sale. So it has been slow a little bit, but it's starting to pick up finally. And that's kind of how it goes. Not as bad as it was, but I mean, that's kind of how it went. I'm not a stranger to seeing things dip, and it doesn't scare me like it does other, like I know you have them conversations with ball python people, and you see that a lot. Like people, I said 2003. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a market or the whole hobby kind of, downskid a little bit, get slow. So none of it's scary if you're going to do this stuff. But yeah, I do want to get back to shows. I don't know why. Like I said, I'm just having trouble getting back there. I get my kids on the weekend. I never want to give them up. My daughter's my helper. She's more than willing to go with me. My son is kind of like, he would be bored there. But I kind of want to try to get back to Tinley next year. So we'll see. Next year is my son's senior year for football. He'll be done. I don't have to be available to go see him on the weekends, which I want to go see him on the weekends. And I'll have weekends a little bit more back to do reptile shows. So.
Yeah. Your comment you made about, doing more podcasts, putting yourself out there more, me, I'm a recluse. And that's the worst thing to be in this industry, because you're supposed to show your shit off. And a lot of times I don't show my shit off. And that's bad business. I keep selling it, but I don't show it. I've always wondered what the podcast could do. Like, could you roll out a podcast to show off the new Morph? Like, I understand you could do a 20-minute video, but like, could you do a podcast based around the marketing of a new project? Like, what could you do with this platform when it comes to certain things? Like, I don't pay a lot of attention to the podcasters. I'm kind of an asshole for it. So I don't even know what the fuck anybody's doing out there. I don't know what people are saying out there. Like, but when I look at I just like talking. So, podcasts are good for me. I don't know if I make more money selling animals because of the podcast. Like, I get guys coming over at the shows and saying, hey, I enjoyed the podcast, but like, I don't know if I'm gaining business because I'm doing this. I think if anything, I'm just adding maybe a little more clout in the community, but not so much in the buying community, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
that's an interesting thing, because while I'm not someone, I'm like you, I'm not someone who's going to advertise. I've had people like, why don't you do YouTube? I would never do YouTube. That's not for me. I like what Elijah does on YouTube. That's cool. But I mean, to make it on YouTube, you've got to be like a personality and do all the editing. That's not for me. I don't want to do any of that. But I do show my animals. Like if I have a clutch, if I have an animal I'm taking a picture of cleaning, throw it up there, and that creates a buzz. I mean, I do go on even slides of that where I'm like, oh, damn, I haven't posted anything in like 4 months. And then when I post one thing, I will get like my inbox going. You know what I mean? Hey, what's up with that? You got any more of them? So But then I feel like if you do too much, it becomes, you know, you just scroll through it. So it's a balance of things, and I definitely am working more of an old school way. Being old school, I guess, you know, I still get emails. You know, private messagings, DM. That's kind of my thing. And like I said, I do like shows. I miss doing shows somewhat. I want to go do Tinley. I want to do one table, not two tables, because that's a lot for me. I was doing two tables. That was pretty stressful. One table. See, you're doing that, Elijah. That looks like a lot more fun. Two table thing, man, that beat the hell out of me. That was a lot to do. So we'll see what happens. But even Tinley, I think the first one I did was 2012. The first show I sold nothing. The second time I did it, made like $700, and it kept on ramping up, and it got really good. I don't know if it'll be like something where people have to get to know me or see me again and all that stuff. I mean, I'm definitely more known than I was in 2012. But, you know, I guess sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't know Borneos were going to be here with some blood pythons or whatever else I'm going to bring that day. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get that. And, you know, kind of like my building of like a friend pool in the hobby is a lot like at the shows. Like seeing you a couple tables down from me,
Yeah.
starting that relationship. I mean, most people I know it's because of the shows. And that's one nice thing about the shows. So, you know, Elijah, with you doing a little bit of the YouTube thing, man, like, do you even like doing it? Or do you do it because you feel like you have to? Is that a bad question? Are we
That says
supposed
it
to?
No,
all to me right there.
I mean, I started in 2012, and I kind of like doing it, but I like showing the animals.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really care to be in my videos, so I wasn't in like hundreds of videos. Most of the time, you'd see probably just my hands, my arms. Most people thought, you know, once when I would post a video of me, in the comments, you would get them like, yo, I thought you were black. You know what I'm saying? Because my New York accent. Yeah. So, you know, even though you see my arms and everything like that, you know, but I liked it more for just like showing the animals. But, you know, I realized after time, you kind of got to like show yourself as well. People do want to see that. They want to see the personality and all that, and you know, the person behind the animals a little better. So I've been trying to do that for the past, I don't know, year and a half, maybe 2 years now, trying to like intro myself in the video and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy though, but I like to show the animals and stuff like that. It's just from I forgot what fucking 2013, I think it was, when I had my daughter. Since then till now, you know, it's kind of hard with the kids, you know, the 3 kids. That's kind of when I kind of slowed down a lot with the YouTube stuff, you know, focusing on the kids and trying to do the animals and all that. So I'll be slacking on the YouTube.
Yeah.
So I know you incorporate your whole family into what you do. You know, I know your wife, you said, really enjoyed the animals when she first saw them. And I'm sure the kids love them too. And they come out and they want to see them. The lead up to that is, you guys remember, if you followed Nerd Reptiles back in like 2011 or 12, he had Raffy was helping him with videos. Raffy was coming out for clutches. They were explaining stuff. So, and I've said this story before, you know, after Raffy was done there, he went on to Justin Quebeca and he started doing videos, and Justin kind of started, you know, he was going to blow up no matter what, but you know, things changed a little bit after like the videos. And the one thing I straight up asked Raffy, how do you do it, man? Like, how do you make everybody famous on YouTube? And I believe the way he explained it was third-party perspective that isn't you as a reptile breeder. Like, you having a person next to you who's a little wet behind the ears, but has that, you know, glow to him of happiness. He's not a broken man yet. And he's looking at these things and he's just like blown away and loving them. It's easier for the viewer to connect to that guy than a breeder explaining an animal to somebody. So, you know, where you talk about your busyness with your kids right now, incorporating your kids' joy maybe into you exposing your animals to the community could actually help with your viewership, because there's a little more of a connection for the viewer there. That's kind of the way he put it to me. And I think there is something to that, in all honesty, because the idea of me standing over an animal and talking about it, I don't see the appeal there. Like, I'll be straight with you. Like, you know, I'm good with words sometimes. I don't see the appeal there. And I do think that third party of excitement there really brings people in, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because I've done it a couple times, probably a dozen times with my daughters.
Yeah.
And those videos do pretty well, you know, even if it's taking the snakes out or feeding videos like that, feeding the collection, frozen thawed rats. And I'll have them do it too, pull out the tubs, feed them and stuff like that. They do really well. They're really excited. It was going pretty well. But like I said, it's tough, man, because I got to come down here, clean hundreds of animals. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I don't like, like doing videos and there's anything dirty and stuff like that. And by the time, when I come to clean, I don't like cleaning. So it's a speed run. You know what I'm saying? I don't like fucking playing with the snake shit and all that type of stuff. I like to get it done and out. And then, these rooms, they be humid. I want to get, sweaty and all that. And I'm kind of done for the day. So to come back down with the kids and, dude, that's where it's hard for me to keep up with the YouTube. It's just even to come down, keep doing videos, it's really hard. After I'm done cleaning, I just want to be, relaxed after that.
I don't think you can have a big collection and be a YouTuber. There's no balance there. You put all your time into one and sometimes not the other. I've seen great collections fall because YouTube became the number one thing, and no shame, there's something, when you find your niche, go with your niche. But that's the balance with me, man. Like, even like with posting and, with Instagram, I found if I posted a picture in the morning, lunch, and dinner, I was getting followers nonstop. And I think I got that page up to like 42,000. And then I got hacked and lost it all and said, fuck it, I'm never doing this again. But 3 times a day, and luckily I had enough stuff to do that, got a lot of eyes on there. But like I said, the video aspect of things, man, I don't want to edit, I don't want to do any of that shit. But I do understand there's a benefit in it, but I'm really tough to motivate, man. And, you understand that. I'm going to go back and clean snakes when we get done with this. I didn't even get to shower, man. I am sweaty and disgusting right now. Like, I got shit to do. But I love this. But I love it that MJ is going to do all the heavy lifting. He's going to do the editing. Like, if it wasn't for him offering, you wouldn't be seeing me doing this right now because, I'd be doing it right now, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I'm a little stubborn on that. But, and like I said, I apologize. I don't watch content for reptiles. I like to talk to people and have the conversation. So I'll be straight. I've never looked at your YouTube channel. I didn't know you had your kids in there already. And I'm really glad you do because, like I said, I think it just changes the connection you have with the viewer. And nobody wants to look at sweaty dudes in their 30s and 40s. It's not a demographic. I know that demographic because I meet these guys at the shows. And I love all you guys. Don't ever stop saying hello to me, but I meet these guys. But that's just personally me. But I don't know, Matt, you have anything you want to throw in there with that social media, or we're about at that 2-hour mark, and I know we like to cut it short around there.
Yeah, kind of that on what you said. It's like I got into reptiles for different reasons. All this stuff wasn't there. I like podcasts because you're talking to the breeder, you're finding out stuff. But as far as YouTube goes, and all, I understand that will sell you more animals. It'll get you more popularity. To me, it's just that's not why I'm in it. And like I said, more power to like Elijah for doing it. And like I said, hearing him say it's a struggle, that's a real thing. I barely, after cleaning and seeing the animals for myself, something important for me is to go down and like get pictures of animals to sell them. And even that's like, damn, I just did all that. How am I going to wrench this into it? And that makes it hard. So I can't imagine podcasting and having a big social media presence. Like I tried to make it a point to like at least keep my Instagram stories running. That lasts like 4 days for me, and then I don't even do it for another 2-3 weeks. I just fall off of it. So yeah, I know things add on, but I guess being an older school guy, whatever, this kind of stuff's really not my thing. And I try to do what I can, and I like some of it. So I will keep trying. But as far as ever seeing me be a YouTuber or something like that, or have my own podcast, there's a million podcasts. I'm glad you guys do it, so I can be on them. That's fun for me. Even this, I like the old format, the phone call. I barely like hearing my voice, let alone my dumb face and my voice on YouTube. So
yeah.
I apologize about the noise. My dog is around me the whole time, and he like can't wait to jump. If I'm on the couch, he wants to be on my lap. So I've been pushing him around. And
if you ever seen me do these, I either have a dog in my lap, I have a cat fucking with my hair.
Right here, right now, too.
Look
Being a pain.
You don't like the camera either.
Makes it a little more real. I don't know, man. I like podcasts, but like, I'll be straight with you. We're gonna wrap this up. Like, it's up to me to manage the conversation. But the reality is, if three of us were like at Tinley talking in the hallway, it would be more of a conversation and less of me leading a conversation.
Yeah.
So I got to find that balance or exactly how that works, because I would rather have both you guys on here having this conversation going back and forth. I just have to figure out a way where the people I'm talking to aren't only dependent on me to take the conversation somewhere, where it's a collective conversation, if that makes more sense. Like where it has that flow. I got to figure out how to do that. Like I said, I think this was a great flow, and I love talking to both you guys. But if it falls on me to find a way to make a three-way conversation, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. I mean, there's definitely a way to do that. I don't know how to, but
Yeah.
it's for
Well,
you to
how
figure
we
out,
do
dude.
it. My phone turns off, and you guys talk when I'm not there. That's how you do it. You take me out of the equation. You guys do just fine. But all right. Well, how about this? We're getting out of here. I appreciate you both. I know this isn't always your guys' scene. I know you guys do it because it's me and I'm a special guy and all. But I appreciate you guys coming out for the conversation, because I want to learn more about these species. I know way too much about both these species to not own any of them, but I've been obsessing over them, like I said, the whole time I'm in the hobby. So one of these days, and I'm buying from both of you. But like I said, I honestly generally like coming on here. I like these cross conversation. I like learning something I don't know. Like not to breed my boutiques together, even though I thought that looked cool. Like I said, guys, honestly, I appreciate it. If you guys want to plug in your social media, a little bit of an exit, go right ahead and we'll get out of here.
Go ahead, Elijah.
And pretty much Juggernaut Reptiles. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. That's about it.
Easy.
Yeah, me, Facebook. You can find me under my name, Matt Minatola, or Philly Herpetoculture. Philly Herp in Google will get you to my Instagram or Facebook, I'm sure, via Instagram on Philly Herpetoculture. Like I said, you don't know how to spell that. Just type in Philly Herp. I'm sure it'll get you there.
Right. And you guys going to Daytona?
No.
Mm.
If I did, I wanted to go just to hang out. I'm not going to make Tinley to hang out. I hope, like I said, hopefully maybe 2025, 2026. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Daytona's a vibe, buddy. If you guys haven't been there, I encourage everyone to go.
I've been there plenty of times, man. It's awesome.
Different. All right. Well, like I said, I think our next episode we're rolling out with, it's going to be William with RCR and Chad Halker. I think we're going to get drunk and just say some dumb shit. And that episode will be coming out the Friday of Daytona. So when you guys are on the way, give it a listen. I'm sure we're going to say some dumb shit. Other than that, again, guys, I really do appreciate you. We're going to get together soon and hopefully do this. And I'll be hitting you guys up for all those top secret projects you guys are working with so I can see them and show nobody. So peace out, guys.
Later.
Later.
Later, Matt.